Hi, this is the fifth homework assignment for Pirple's NodeJS masterclass. In this assignment, I was supposed to create some unit tests and a test runner. So let's see how it looks like. So in the console, I'm going to put a node test command. And you can see that it generated a report. I've got 13 tests, and I get the details of an error that occurred in the 8th test. So now let's go to the code and see how it works. So this is my test runner. I've got some dependencies at the top. I got containers when I put in my unit test from two different files for the lang and the math libraries. And then I got my test runner functions. So the core function is the run test function, and the two other are produce test report and count test. So in order to run tests, first I got to count the test I got. So first I'm fetching the app.test container that is defined over here. And then I check if it got some keys on it. And those keys are those lang unit and math unit containers. Then I'm fetching the test that within those files, and then I'm incrementing the counter. So that's how I know how many tests I got. In the produce test report, I'm printing out the successes and the errors. So first I'm printing out begin test report, and on the basis of the parameters over here, the limit, successes and errors, I'm printing out that data. If there was an error, if the error's array is not empty, I'm going to print out details about it. And finally, I'm going to keep the application if this test runner was supposed to be within the project with an application. In this case, I do not have an application for this particular project. So about the run test, this is my test runner, this is the core functions. In the beginning, I'm creating an empty array for errors, then a counter for successes. The limit, this is the number of tests that I got, and the counter that's going to help me in the loop over here. So first I'm fetching the test containers, then I'm fetching the individual test within those containers that I loaded. And afterwards I'm fetching the test name and the test value, which is the function. Then I'm trying to call that test. And through that test, I'm passing in a function. So when the test is done, I'm going to invoke this very function and check if it succeeds. If it does, then I'm incrementing the counter, and I'm logging out the test name in green. I'm also checking if that was the last test for this report. If so, then I'm invoking the produce test report function, and I'm passing in the data that I've got. If the test failed, if there was an error, an exception thrown, I'm going to catch it over here, and I'm going to push the details of that error to the errors array. I'm going to print out the test name in red, increment the counter again, and check if that test was the last one. So that's it for the runner. Let's now go and see the library. So in the library, I got two files containing functions. One's called lang and the other is called math. I also got a few helpers, which is just validating a number, validating a string, if the input is indeed of type string. I also got the get percentage, which helps me to print the percentage of tests that failed or succeeds. So let's go to the lang library. At the top I've got a few dependencies. Then I create a holder for my functions. I got a few two arrays that help me for my functions, and here I got two methods. The first conjugates the verb, and it turns the verb into a past tense in Spanish, and the other prints out the ordinal number also in Spanish, plus it appends a noun. So in the first function, first I'm checking if the verb is a string. If not, then I'm throwing a custom error. Then I'm checking if the verb is an infinitive. If not, then I'm going to throw another custom error. If everything is fine, then I'm going to fetch the stem and fetch an ending from an array, from a helper array, which looks like this. So I'm just going to fetch a string and append it to the stem, and here's my result. So let's take a look at those two custom errors. They extend the error class, and they add additional information to the message of the error. So back to the lang library. The second function is get ordinal number. In the beginning, I just validate if the parameters are indeed a number and a string. If not, then throwing that custom error. Otherwise, I just append the necessary endings and return the result. Now to the math library. Is very simple, very similar. In the beginning I got dependencies, then I create a container for my functions. In here I got two functions, find divisors and get a random number. So find divisors returns an array of two greatest divisors for that number. As you can see in the beginning, checking if the parameter is a number. If not, throwing a type error, and otherwise I'm just going through the algorithm, and in the end I'm returning two divisors. So in here I changed that to always return 9, so you can see in the console that the test failed. And about the get number, it's just a simple function. In the beginning it validates if the parameters are numbers. If not, then I'm setting the default values, minimum to 1 and the maximum to 10. And I'm also checking for the scenario if the minimum is greater than the max. If so, then I'm setting the default values. Otherwise, I'm just going ahead and creating a random number within that range, and I'm returning a result. So let's now see the unit test for those libraries. So first, in my unit test I got dependencies. That includes the assert library, then my library, which is lang in this case. I also fetch the classes for my custom errors, because I'm going to be checking on that. Then I create a holder for my tests, because I want to export them in that container, in that object, and then my unit test. So in the simplest of the test, I just check if the function returns the correct result. And then in the end, I'm going to call the done function to get to let the test runner know that I'm done, and it can assess if it was a success or not. In this test, I'm checking if my function throws an error, and that error is of that type. Let's go to the math unit. In here, it's very similar. First, I got my dependencies to the assert, to my math library, and to my helpers. I got my holder for the test, and here are the tests. I'm checking if the find divisor returns the right values. I'm also checking if it throws exception if the parameter is not a number, then I'm expecting a type error. Afterwards, I'm checking if the get a number method works alright. I'm checking for the scenario if when the minimum is greater than the maximum, and in the end, I'm checking if my function doesn't throw an error. If the maximum or minimum or both, they are not numbers, I just want a simple random number. And I do that with the assert.doesNotThrow method. So that's it for me. Thank you.